Yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk, and the sad day has come, my friends. It is a sad day. I have had to return the rental. It did yeoman's work. We'll take a look at the stats afterwards, but while I'm talking here, talking about the old rental, and that is the Object 283, by the way. The Tier 9 tank that you could only get rentals with unless you got very lucky during the Christmas slot machine event. Which case, some people have, actually, this may be one of the rarest tanks in the game, actually. As far as one that was released, I don't know. I'd have to look at the numbers, how many are out there in the wild. The rental numbers are skewing it probably, but it would be interesting to see how rare this thing actually is. I quite liked it. I did. I was hoping the last game would be awesome. It was not. It was a bit of a kind of yeoman's game here. We're going to take a stab at him. He's dark. See if we hit him. We don't know. And we got the BZ-68. So I come over here to the escarpment, or the what is it? That's not a step. What is it? It's the high area that it's not a mountain, but it's the flat. It'll come to me in a minute. But I'm up here. I'll tell you that much for nothing. We're on the west side, and I'm thinking we're just going to push in. One of the reasons I'm not in the city, I generally played this thing as a heavy. I'll talk a little bit about why I enjoyed playing it as a rental and goofing around this way, but the reason I'm not in the city playing as a heavy is they had a 279 early, which, just pay attention to where that guy shows up. I don't know if somebody bought their 279 early here, old Night Sedge, or maybe he just try-harded and worked hard. He's got a really strange stat line, I would say. It seems like somebody, or that person was playing really well, and then they sort of didn't, and then they did, and now they didn't. So I don't know. It's hard to tell. But in any event, all I know for this match, the Object 279 early showed up over here. And I sort of wasn't interested in taking on that guy. Those two pushed in, and they got absolutely pummeled by both the AMBT and the 279 early, and whatever is back there up on their hill back here. Also the same word I can't think of. It still doesn't come to me. Escarpment? That's not it. What? Plateau! Freaking plateau. They're up on their plateau. We're on our plateau. There's another plateau in the north, all right? I wasn't interested in pushing in. I figured I was going to get shredded. So I felt a little bit badly about leaving these fellas. They did last a little longer than I thought, but I also knew based on my speed I needed to chogi on out of here. I thought we were doing okay too. In the city they were having a fairly decent time of it. I'm going to stop here for a minute. I was thinking about trying to get a shot in the 432, but then I went, oh shit, 432. I'm not liking this because they're going to swarm that poor 140. And this thing is not very fast for a medium. I also am not using equipment, so I don't have a turbo or any extra help. And I really figured the 432 would get right to the edge, find me, and shoot me in the back. And this turns out to be true, and I do get a little bit lucky, but I am going to survive it. And like I said, I'm not burning the place down. I would have loved the last battle, and this happens to be the last battle of the 35 that I had. I would have loved for it to be a great game. That would have been a lot of fun, would have been better content maybe. I don't know. But it isn't. All right, it's just yeoman's work. Right now, I am just attempting to not lose an entire flank, and I knew I was in trouble right there. I went, oh my God, the 432 sees me. So I'm going to get AMBT'd, and I just got hit. The 432 bounced me. I'm like, please. Oh my gosh, the AMBT bounced me. Okay, fine. A little shot from the 432, and we're just going to survive this thing. Fantastic. Oh, a little arty coming at you. So we're just going to hold this particular flank. And my spotting here, although I'm certainly not doing very well overall with my 0 damage and 0 spotting, we are going to find this dude making a runner. So here comes the MBT. We'll slap him. We'll back out. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to deal with the 432. No, E75 killed him. And the AMBT is pushing up here. He takes another hit. I'm thinking maybe I can get a shot on him. Nah, we'll just let him come up. We'll try to beat him up here. So, going pretty good for the team, but there's still a 279 early to deal with. I was sort of expecting maybe he would push up here and take me on as well, but it turns out he's hanging out on the plateau. So, about playing this thing as a rental and goofing around with no equipment, and oh, by the way, no premium rounds. I shot no premium rounds in this thing at all. I really kind of enjoyed that gameplay, to be quite honest. Not because I am some kind of gold round standard round aficionado. What? I don't know. a person who hates gold rounds, okay, or likes to only play with no gold rounds. That kind of person. It's not like I'm that kind of person, okay? Doesn't matter to me. You want to play your gold rounds, play your gold rounds. But it was kind of fun because I made money in this thing nearly every time I drove it. I really had to have a bad game. I really had to have a bad game before I lost money in this thing. I'm in a bad game. So generally, no problem because it's a premium tank, makes a few extra credits, I believe. All that good stuff. So I enjoyed that, kind of stress-free. I wasn't that worried about the stats to begin with, which is a whole nother subject we've talked a little bit about on the channel. Being free of worrying about it, and some of that is just purely your internal monologue, right? If you decide to not worry about it, then you can, in fact, not worry about it. You know what I'm saying? So you just play the game and enjoy yourself. I think there's tanks still out there that I want to do well in, so I do get a little stressed if I don't do well, even though I really shouldn't. But this tank, that's why I drove it like this and I enjoyed it. I drove it like I had stolen it. It didn't matter to me what happened. I tried to do well, but if I didn't get too bothered by it. I also proved that while I didn't really burn the world down and have the absolute best games in it, or I wasn't certainly even close to top player in the tank. I don't know where I'm sitting in the Hall of Fame because the tank's not in the Hall of Fame, but it's not very high. My average DPM, we'll look at it in a minute, was not very good. But I will tell you that my enjoyment of this tank and this playstyle was immense. If I sat down and I went, oh, let's play a couple rental battles in the tank I don't care about, it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. So let's see how I did with the old rental that I have returned back to the rental counter. I've handed them the keys. They've gone in. There was a couple nicks, couple dents, but they didn't charge me. It's all good. I think somebody may have thrown up in there at some point, but they didn't really catch that either. We cleaned it up a little bit before we turn it back in. Let's go see how I did in this thing. The old Object 283 rental. Well, my friends, how did it all end? Overall, a 66% win rate in 35. Would have been nice if it was 65. 35 battles. We come down here. 889 average XP. Remember, no gold ammo was fired. No equipment was used this whole time. 69.11% hits. That was a little lower than I would have liked, but not surprising based on no help for the gun. We'll look at my stats in just a second in terms of the tank itself. We've survived 48.57. That does speak to a good win rate. I will say that this thing just stayed in the game a lot more than most mediums. And while my DPM was fairly bad at 1,492, the fact that I had a 0.6 armor use efficiency and my survival was 48. I had a lot of close games where I was actually a factor at the end. Even if I wasn't the 3,000-4,000 damage guy, I was helping win games by continuing to have votes and being around at the end of the game. I thought that was an interesting thing. Destruction ratio is good. That speaks again to a 65 at 2-to-1 essentially. Damage ratio okay at 1.27. That speaks to my DPG not being fantastic at 1,492. My assist is okay at 427, and the rest of the numbers, I did have a 4,492 top damage game, or that was my top damage game with 6 kills. I did show that. That video is back there in the past if you want to take a look at it. Really quickly then, as we summarize this or finish this thing, the stats then I used, because I wasn't using any equipment or food or anything like that, I did have a decent crew. You can see that, well, decent. They started off with 0 skills. So I didn't use any books or anything. They were 100% in the tank. You can see that I got through 1 skill in 35 games and up to 71% on the second one. That's actually pretty decent. So by the time I got done, they were starting to be, if not good, at least semi-capable, I guess you might say. 6.66 rate of fire, that gave me a DPM of 2,399 and a fairly significantly bad 0.36 accuracy with the dispersion and aim time of 2.4. So those are all things that could be improved by using various equipment, food, things like that. Having Brothers in Arms, which I did not have that either. I really could have done Brothers in Arms first, and then some of the last games would have had Brothers in Arms working. Essentially, that would have been 100%, but I didn't bother with that either. It's a rental. Why would I don't know. You don't worry about that kind of stuff. Not much else of this is going to be helped other than maybe some of the view range stuff with skills and some of the concealment stuff, but as you can see, I didn't really have anything to help. I think I did have the view range thing with the commander. I did recon and situational awareness up to 71%. So there you go. I think I actually did those backwards because I believe situational awareness is better. That was my mistake. All right, there you go. So that's how I had it set up. That's what happened. You can see rental period ended, unfortunately. 35 games only in the Object 283. Ended up with a fairly impressive, low sample size noted, but got away with a 66% win rate in this bad boy. I didn't hate it, but a lot of people I think do, because it is solidly at the very bottom of the tier 9 mediums. I feel like maybe if I got one of these and put equipment on it and started trying, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't hold on to a 66, but let's just pretend that I would and say that I'm maybe one of the best players of all time in the 283 with no equipment and no gold. Okay? I think that's fairly specific enough that I'll just claim that title. That's complete BS. That's all I've got, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Maybe we should make this a thing, man. Maybe I need another rental or something like that. Possible. That's all I've got. We will see ya.